Hey y'all, so it's been a while since I've posted a video on this channel. Honestly, there's been a lot going on. I had a baby. That was a huge thing. And originally this was just a book channel and I have, been trying to get back into reading a lot, but I have been finding it hard to find the time. I still have been reading here and there, but just not at the speed and the level of which I did before. But what I have been able to find time for, which funnily enough, I didn't do much before, is watch movies. It's kind of switched. I used to read a lot of books, not watch a lot of movies and TV and stuff like that outside of my other channel that I have with my husband. But now me and him have been watching a lot of movies together and it has been a whole lot of fun, honestly. And so I thought, okay, I already have this channel where I talk about books. Why not talk about movie stuff as well? So I'm definitely going to be doing a lot more movie related content over here, not necessarily reaction type content. And so I wanted to start a little series where I talk about all of the movies I watched the previous month. And these don't have to just be new movies that came out. This is just whatever I watched. And in January, I watched a lot, actually. I watched 11 movies. So let's talk about them. Also, I'm not going to be including any spoilers in these movies, so if you haven't seen any of the ones I'm talking about, you don't have to worry about it. So we started off the year strong with No Hard Feelings. So this is a 2023 comedy where you have Jennifer Lawrence, who plays a woman who is broke and basically down to her last dollar, and she is desperate for money, and she takes this weird job from these parents who hire her to date their super shy 19-year-old son before he goes off to college. So this movie was really interesting because it's kind of more of a modern raunchy comedy, and I don't think that you really see those that often anymore. Like, they really kind of had their heyday in more like the mid-ish 2000s, maybe mid to late 2000s. But this movie really took me by surprise. I feel like Jennifer Lawrence was just fantastic in this role, and especially to have a female lead in a comedy like this, I just don't think that you see it that often either, and she just nailed it. Not only was this movie super hilarious, but it also had a lot of heart to it, a lot of heartfelt moments. And those are honestly my favorite kind of comedies. Super funny, but also deeper meaning. I tend to lean towards those kind of comedies in general. So going into this movie, I literally had no idea what it was about. We just kind of randomly chose it and took a risk, and it paid off because it was great. And I feel like not enough people talk about it, and it definitely deserves more hype because it was awesome. And I am also going to be sharing my Letterboxd ratings in these videos, kind of like how I would for my book videos where I would share my Goodreads ratings. So I would be giving this movie a 4 out of 5 stars, which is a very high rating for me because I'm kind of picky with my 5 stars, to be honest. Next up, we have 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple. So I'm personally just a huge fan of this franchise in general. Love 28 Days Later. 28 Weeks Later is probably my least favorite, even though I still enjoyed it. It's just very different, even though I will say that one had probably the craziest and best opening sequence to it. Insane. And it's just really exciting that they came back all these years later to make more of these movies. So this movie is a sequel to 28 Years Later. It's a post-apocalyptic horror zombie movie. I say zombie for a reason, but zombies basically, kind of. So I know the first 28 Years Later was a hit or miss for a lot of people. I personally loved it. I thought it was incredible. I thought their performances were great in it. I loved the storyline. I cried so much. And since 28 Years Later was so captivating and emotional for me, I didn't necessarily have the highest expectations for the sequel. Not because I thought it was going to be bad, but sometimes it's just hard for the sequel to live up to the previous one. But man, oh man, The Bone Temple was just chef's kiss. So in this movie, you have this cult that is led by Sir Jimmy Crystal, who is played by Jack O'Connor, who is having a great run right now. He was also the vampire in Sinners. Great actor, really good in both of these roles, but he is a captivating villain, let me say. Speaking of great performances, Ralph Fiennes, awesome. He was great in 28 Years Later as well. Even better in The Bone Temple, in my opinion. It's really more of an expansion of his character. You should really just go see the movie, especially if you love zombie movies and you're big into horror. You should go watch the movie if you haven't already. But definitely watch 28 Years Later first because you need that information. But never in a million years would I have guessed what the scene that's on the poster of this movie came from. If you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. But the fact that they could put a scene like that in something like this and pull it off, and it worked so well, I can't even believe it. It was just the way they did it was great. And I know they said that they would only make the next movie based off of how these two performed, and I really hope they do because I need to know how the story ends. I'm so invested at this this point, honestly. And this movie and 28 Years Later just made me want to get more into British cinema as well. That's just something I haven't fully explored. So if y'all have any recommendations for really good British cinema movies, let me know down in the comments below. I will say though, this movie was quite graphic and brutal, and there was a specific scene that made me feel actually physically ill. Like I felt nauseated, which is something that hasn't happened to me in any of the previous installments. Typically I can handle gore fairly well for the most part. I mean, sometimes I'll be like, you know, like have a reaction to it, but not to the point where I physically felt sick like I did in this one. So just a forewarning if you're squeamish, but overall, fantastic movie, highly recommend. And my rating for this one is between a 4.25 and honestly a 4.5 stars. It is definitely up there for me. So next up we have The Internship, which is a 2013 comedy starring Owen Wilson and Vince Vaughn. So this one is basically about these two old school sales guys who end up getting laid off from their jobs. They land this internship where they have to compete for a job at Google against these other smart, tech-savvy college kids who are literally like half their age. So I ended up giving this one a 3.5 stars. It's a solid comedy. It's nothing groundbreaking. I've definitely seen better comedies. This was also a rewatch for me. I saw this movie right when it first came out in theaters, but it had been so long since I watched that. It's definitely not as good as Wedding Crashers from these two, but it still is just a feel-good comedy about these two people from a bygone era kind of navigating the more modern world, which, you know, it's kind of funny to say that because this movie weirdly already kind of feels dated, which makes me cringe inside because this movie only came out in 2013. But this movie is definitely full of a lot of millennialisms, definitely millennial core. You can literally tell when this movie takes place by Dylan O'Brien's outfit alone. And you know, in this day and age, a lot of people think that that's a bad thing, like the millennial cringe. And there's definitely a lot of cringy moments about millennialisms. But me and my husband actually had so much fun with all those references in this movie. It felt nostalgic. It didn't necessarily feel cringe like that. And it definitely captured that early 2010s time period. And I do think that it hits a bit harder if you were old enough to appreciate that time. I was in high school during that era. So for me, it's gonna be like how my mom looks at the 80s for her nostalgia. I'm gonna look back at the early 2010s. So if you're looking for some 2010s nostalgia, which is crazy to say, this movie's definitely for you. So next up we have Rental Family. This movie came out in 2025, stars Brendan Fraser, and he plays a struggling American actor who is down on his luck. He ends up taking this job at a rental family agency where he essentially plays stand-ins for people's lives. This movie takes place in Tokyo, and honestly, it just made me miss Japan. We visited 2 years ago. Incredible, incredible experience. Loved it so much. Can't wait to go back. And this movie is really about broken people trying to help other broken people in the best way they can, which sometimes gets a little morally questionable, but they also learn and grow along the way. Brendan Fraser does that kind of vulnerable but hopeful character archetype really well, and that is on full display in this movie. So this one was a strong 3.75 stars for me. I thought it was great. It might have just been missing a little something. I can't quite put my finger on it. Maybe just a little more depth to the characters, maybe a little more depth to certain storylines. I'm not quite sure. It just needed something else, I feel like, for me to bump my rating up higher, but still great. I would highly recommend it. I think if you're looking for something heartfelt but still lighthearted, this would be right up your alley. So next up we have Game Night. So this movie came out in 2018, starring Jason Bateman and Rachel McAdams. It's basically about this couple who loves to play games and like they love to do game nights. And when they go and attend somebody else's murder mystery game night, things spiral out of control. They don't really know what's actually happening, what's actually real, or what's just part of the game. You as the viewer don't know, the characters don't know, nobody knows what's going on, and you're trying to figure out the whole movie basically. I ended up giving this one a 3 out of 5 stars, and I could probably nudge it a little bit lower if I'm being picky. It was okay. I mean, solid enough for a one-time watch for me, but nothing memorable that makes me want to go out of my way to rewatch it anytime soon or ever again. I did enjoy trying to figure out the twists and see what was actually going on and see if I was going to be right in the end. I think it's just like a decent popcorn movie. Like I said, nothing super special for me. There are a lot of people who actually really like this movie, and I think if you're in the mood for something kind of light and silly with a mystery plot line, then this could probably be for you. For me, it was just okay, but I'm still glad I checked it out. Next up, we have Prisoners. So this is a thriller that stars Hugh Jackman and Jake Gyllenhaal, and it's basically about a dad whose daughter goes missing after Thanksgiving, and he feels like the police are not doing enough in this investigation. They're not moving quickly enough, so he essentially takes matters into his own hands. I ended up giving this one a 4.25 stars. Just fantastic. Hugh Jackman's performance was amazing, but honestly, honestly, I really feel like Jake Gyllenhaal as the detective stole the show for me. He was incredible. And it made me want to actually go watch more Jake Gyllenhaal movies because, you know, I've known him as an actor. I've thought he was good in things, but I feel like I haven't appreciated him enough as an actor, and I need to go back and rewatch or watch more of his movies, honestly, now. This movie also has that kind of gloomy, rainy atmosphere, which this is really random, but I personally love when it rains in movies, and I'm always looking for more movies that have a rainy setting to them. But anyway, you have that dark, gloomy, rainy setting mixed with this tension that just kind of builds and builds as the movie goes. You don't really know what's true, what's going on. It's just a super atmospheric, thought-provoking, well-acted thriller, which, I mean, who doesn't love that? You know, sometimes you just want to watch a good thriller, and I feel like if somebody was like, I want to watch like a good thriller, I would recommend this movie and Gone Girl, but also this movie. I will say though, I did see the plot twist coming a mile away. That didn't take away my enjoyment of this movie. I thought it was wonderful. I definitely want to rewatch it again at some points. Next up, we have The Roofman, which came out in 2025, and this movie is about a man who escapes prison and hides out in a Toys R Us. And it's actually based on a true story, which is crazy. So this movie stars Channing Tatum and Kirsten Dunst. Channing Tatum actually nails that likable guy who makes bad choices. He makes you want to root for the criminal in this one. The romance with Kirsten Dunst, it was okay, but y'all, I'm like a huge romance book reader, so it's kind of hard to wow me just because you just don't have the time to develop them like you would in a book or in a series or whatnot. Like, I kind of feel like they lacked chemistry, but whatever. But the absurdity of the concept of a criminal literally hiding out in a Toys R Us. Also, he's super smart, so you're kind of watching him do all these things, you know, putting things together. There's a good balance of different kind of tones throughout. Like, you have the funniness of him in a Toys R Us, but you also have some deeper emotional moments as well. If you're like me and you enjoy character-driven stories with an interesting premise, you'd probably enjoy this one. I ended up giving it a 3.5 star rating. Next up, we have About Time, which is a 2013 magical realism romantic dramedy. That is a mouthful. So there is a touch of time travel in this, but I wouldn't classify this as a full-on sci-fi or a full-on fantasy. But magical realism is just such a fun genre. I wish we got more things in that genre. Just the modern world with just a little hint of magic sprinkled in, but nothing really to change anything about the world. You know, like, it doesn't look like you're in a fantasy movie or you're not in like some sci-fi world. It's just the real world with a little twist. And this movie actually really reminded me of a book I read, The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. I feel like if you enjoy that book, you'd probably like this movie and vice versa. Kind of same vibe. But anyway, this movie is about this awkward guy who on his 21st birthday learns that the men in his family have this ability to time travel. And let me just say this movie hit me and my husband hard. We were straight up bawling. I haven't seen my husband cry like that in a movie since Coco. You know, Mama Coco. Obviously, I'm not going to get into spoilers or anything, but there was a scene in this movie that literally bumped my rating from a 3.5 all the way up to a 4. Maybe even a little bit higher, but just that scene alone paired with the ending, wow. The overall message that you get at the end of the movie mixed in with all the emotional moments, it just kind of makes the whole movie click and come together. Bill Nighy, I think that's how you say his name, he plays his character so well, and he definitely was my favorite character in this whole movie. And just the whole vibe of this movie is just such a good mixture of rom-com plus family drama, family togetherness, you know, lessons learned. It definitely feels like more than a rom-com. Like, it feels wrong to just label it as just a rom-com. Like, there's a lot more to it as well. And this movie genuinely made me reflect on life after I finished watching it, like in a way I still think of now to this day, which, I mean, I didn't watch it that long ago. It was just like, you know, this past month, but still, I'm still thinking about it. And I just love when you watch a movie and you, especially when you're not expecting this, but you feel like you got something out of it. Like, you feel like you gained like this token of knowledge that you can put in your pocket and pull out whenever you need it, you know, whenever you're having a hard day or whatnot. And I absolutely felt that with this movie. But the crazy thing is, as much as I enjoyed it, I don't think I could ever go back and watch it just because that scene, gut-wrenching, but in a good way. It's hard to explain. You should just go watch it if you haven't seen it. Next up, we have The Edge of 17. This is another comedy. This one stars Haley Steinfeld, who's a great actress, by the way, one of my personal favorites. Also, Woody Harrelson is in this as well. This is a 2016 coming-of-age movie, and this is actually another rewatch for me. I originally saw this when it first came out. That was the only time I seen it. It had been so long since I watched it again, so there was a lot I didn't remember. I do remember liking it a lot at the time, and I definitely am vindicated in that. I don't know if vindicated is the right use of the word in this scenario. I watched it again and I liked it again. I maybe even liked it a little more. I don't know. It was really, really good. So in this movie, you have Nadine, who is this sarcastic, kind of awkward teenage character, and her world flips upside down when her best best friend starts dating her more popular brother. And then she ends up feeling totally alone and just completely spirals. So this movie really feels like a true coming of age movie. Haley Steinfeld nails this role. She plays this messy, brutally honest, self-sabotaging, sometimes even unlikable, but for a purpose character so well. She definitely steals the screen when she's on it. And Woody Harrelson as this kind of deadpan, kind of reluctant mentor plays so well off of the character of Nadine. And this movie was just so hilarious, mixed in with a lot of lessons learned, a lot of growing up, which is just in true fashion for a coming of age movie. Highly recommend. I gave this one a 4.25 stars. So next up we have Little Miss Sunshine, and this is another dramedy. I watched a lot of dramedies this month. I don't know what was up with that. Probably one of my favorite genres though, so if y'all have any other dramedy recommendations, also comment those down below. But this movie is about Olive, who is a 7-year-old who gets a shot at the Little Miss Sunshine child beauty pageant in California, and her entire family ends up having to pile into this van and drive her cross country. So you have this road trip element in there as well. Steve Carell is just incredible in this movie, just totally nails this role. I love seeing comedians in more serious roles. It's just fun to see their range of acting, and oftentimes they end up doing a really good job because a lot of comedians actually are really good actors, really good well-rounded actors, I should say. It made me want to go watch more Steve Carell stuff, honestly. You also have Alan Arkin, who plays this cranky, potty mouth, vulgar grandpa. He also steals the show. I mean, obviously he won an Oscar for this. It definitely makes sense. But his character plays so well with the rest of the characters in this family, just the different personalities and the road trip elements mixed in with a lot of dark comedy. There's a lot of kind of darker subject matter. It pairs perfectly. Really good dramedy. There's also this really great family bond that you see forming, but it doesn't feel forced either. And it's just a really surprisingly feel-good movie despite some of those darker elements mixed in. I ended up giving this one 4 stars. And my final movie of the month is Uptown Girls, which is a 2003, you guessed it, comedy drama starring Brittany Murphy and Dakota Fanning. So in this movie, you have the spoiled rich girl played by Brittany Murphy who suddenly finds herself broke, completely out of money, and she ends up having to take this job as a nanny for this girl named Ray, who's super uptight, super strict, just very rigid, complete opposite character of Brittany Murphy's character. But this movie actually was a childhood favorite of mine. It holds a ton of nostalgia for me. I've seen it so many times, and Brittany Murphy is just so charming in this role. Rest in peace to her. She was one of my favorite actresses. She brings this kind of bubbly energy to this character that makes you root for her even when she's being a hot mess. And just seeing how she plays off of Ray's character, who, like I said, is super structured and rigid. They learn a lot from each other. It definitely has that 2000s rom-com vibe to it. You know, it takes place in New York City. It has a really catchy soundtrack, songs that still get stuck in my head. From an objective standpoint, there are some cheesy moments, and it definitely could have dug a little deeper in certain plot lines, certain characters. Like, some characters kind of feel a little underused, but overall this movie does have a ton of heart, very feel good, a lot of emotional growth as well. It's definitely comfort watch material. In terms of rating, I'd probably end up giving it between a 3.5 and a 3.75 stars though. All right, y'all. Well, thank you so much for watching this video. Let me know if y'all had any favorite movies that you watched this month, if you enjoyed this video, and if you have any recommendations for me to check out next month. And I'll see y'all next time.